Okay, 1, 2, 3,
Yeah, man. So hey, boys, it's so good to meet you because I mean, like I've been listening. Like, what was the first The first podcast I listened to was back when you guys interviewed. I think Guy might have been the first one, and then I just went through everything. I think is it Palmer Sensei had only recently passed away when I first started listening.
Yeah.
But you guys have got a great podcast, man. It's one of my it's fun and it's always kind of cool, and I love it. It's this world of crazy. I don't know, whatever we're going through at the moment. It's really good. It's really good to hear, man. It's fun. I feel like I'm in the dojo with you guys. I don't know if I can keep up with you guys.
That's so nice, man. That's so
Thanks,
nice.
man.
That's so nice. Obviously, you interviewed Scott Sensei not that long ago and done a 3-parter podcast with him. And that put me onto all of the stuff that you've been doing. So since then, I've been binge watching all your stuff, and I have to say you got some great content there, man. You make us look so unprofessional. It's kind of upsetting for us. It's like,
In what way? What way?
You fell over there.
You cut the videos so well. You have a beautiful, lovely intro.
Drone footage, man.
Actually, man, I think you guys, your stuff is off the hook. I love watching your classes. I'm like, I was saying to Scott, some of the stuff you guys do, I'm like, fuck that. I'm like going, yeah, man. I'm not. Yeah. But no, you guys, your stuff is really cool, and also too, in terms of production, I always think it's really choice. I mean, there's a couple of times, Rue, when you've gone on and talked about being a buzz on the cable or something like that.
Oh right.
And you're seriously. I mean, you're the only. I couldn't tell. So it's really cool, man. I hope you guys. If you guys get down to New Zealand, you got a place to stay.
Yes.
Hey, man.
Roll on down.
You ever come to Dublin?
Likewise.
You can stay at Roos.
Well, what will happen is I will call you when I'm in Dublin and say, I'm not coming to dojo. You might make me put my gear on. And if you want to see what unfit and uncoordinated looks like in the elderly, sure. I'll come show you.
Come on, man. You're in Dublin. Of course you're going to come train.
You got to come and teach us those weapons, man. That's something that's really cool. I mean, it's like something that we never train or do is weapons training, and you seem to dabble in just about every weapon there is. Like you do them all.
Well, because here's where it's at, man. So I started when I was like 5, right? And I lived with 2 military uncles. One was a Kyokushin sensei, and one was a judo sensei. Well, they were judo instructors for the military, martial arts instructors for the military. So in the morning was all Kyokushin. In the evening, it was all judo. And then when I was 10, I saw my first Bruce Lee movie, and forget about it. I wanted to be a 5-foot Chinese guy. And also too, man, I used to really love the Ninja Turtles as a kid, and I was going, well, these are weapons I should learn. So yeah, and I just kind of, I mean, probably like yourself, Ross, and you too, Rui. I mean, you guys started really young. I mean, your dad's a sensei, right, Rui?
Yeah.
And Ross, you've been training since what, you were 5 or 6 or something?
7 was when I started. Yeah, 7.
So people who haven't grown up in it don't really kind of realize it's not necessarily an advantage, but it's definitely one of those things where, because it's around you all the time, by osmosis, you're always taking it in.
Yeah.
And I think I didn't really play any other sports. I wasn't very academically inclined. Like, I didn't learn how to read until I was 25. So So all those physical things and seeing something which was so, and growing up in kind of a rough area and around a rough, sort of a difficult upbringing, you got to learn to take care of yourselves,
Yeah.
But yeah.
How did that come about that you didn't learn to read as a kid?
Well, what happened was drugs and alcohol were a big part of our family life. And my father, so my dad is Samoan, from Samoa, and my mother's Māori from New Zealand. And, but our great grandfather on the Māori side in New Zealand, his mother was Irish and his father was Scottish. So that's why I get this one dazzling tan, man. Bro, I'll tell you, if you guys came down here, like my last name's Dawson, right? But our family name is Lehi. So, we've got all these, my Scottish name is Macleay. And we come from a village called Rossiter, I think it's called. Rossiter, I don't know.
I own that.
But say again?
I own it. It's mine.
Oh, so yeah, but the thing is, if you come to New Zealand, what you guys will find is that I would say 90% of the Māori people in New Zealand have really strong linkages to both Ireland and Scotland. There's a huge, we've all got it in us, like the Maxwells, the McGinty's, the McPhersons, the Macleays, the McAllisters. They're all Māori names here.
That's mad,
Māori names. That's unreal.
Yeah, that's cool.
So, no, but sorry, Roo, I got off this. The reason I think because I had a really pronounced stutter as a kid, a speech impediment, and I found it really hard to speak. And what would happen is my father would just put his knuckle up to my head and hit me on the side of the head every time I got something wrong. So I became so terrified of learning how to read that I put in kind of a mental block. And so it was one of those things where, because it represented sort of trauma in a weird kind of a way, I just couldn't do it. And it just became like our upbringing was kind of like a battlefield. So you're always trying to so you're always learning survival skills, and reading and writing just wasn't important, And so when I started to learn how to read and write, changed, and learning how to, performing arts and things like that, especially singing and so on, it changed my whole life because I could never understand how people could write something on a page, and it could be more interesting than a movie or a comic. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, something like, oh, I didn't know this. Product placement. But I watch you guys, what you guys do in your classes, man. I mean, and a lot of the stuff that you guys talk about, it's you guys joke around. I know you are living. You guys fully appreciate what you're doing, but I think you're living this Uchireshi existence. But what's really cool about it too is that you're not getting subjected to the horse shit that goes along with a lot of Uchireshi programs. I mean, my impression is that Scott's really encouraging you to develop, but he's not encouraging himself as a guru. He's encouraging himself as it's more of a guide than a guru.
Yeah.
And it's really cool. As I've listened to the podcast, just hearing about, Ross, when you're talking about going for Yondan, and Roo, you're talking about Nidan. It's really cool stuff, man. And it never changes. It's always, I've gone back and listened to your stuff a few times. Now, what's the name of, is it Sensei, the one who's the chef?
Tommy.
Oh, shit, man. One time you guys were sitting there doing something, just recording something, and he was in the corner doing handstands or something.
Yeah.
And I was in my dojo just pissing myself laughing with my headset on. And some of my students were there and they're going, what are you? And I'm going, they're kind of, everyone's doing their own training. And I'm standing there laughing my ass off and I can't explain to them. But when he talked about it, I mean, the intensity of your training, the ways you guys have got great technique too. You guys don't need weapons, man.
Like you were saying, when you start in martial arts young, it's you pick things up. Did you say through osmosis? Is that what you said?
Yeah, pretty much. I think. Well, yeah. Sorry,
when you start working full time, that is like it increases tenfold, because not only do we love training and we come training whenever we can, but we get to train more than most people, and in certain sessions we're actually paid to turn up. So
well, I mean, isn't that the thing? I mean, but people always think, you get paid to do the thing you love. But I mean, the thing you love can get to be a pain in the ass too. There's all the stuff that goes along with it. Especially, how were you guys? I mean, it's been interesting too. You guys have kept up a really strong schedule right through the lockdown. I think you guys might have been. Were you guys doing online stuff prior to lockdown?
No. It was mad. So we went into lockdown on a Thursday, and then on a Saturday we had a schedule sorted out where all three, AJ, Rue, and myself, were teaching almost a full schedule of classes from Saturday to Saturday, like a full week's schedule of classes. I think everyone trying to keep as many students engaged and stuff as we possibly could. The boss is an absolute machine. He doesn't switch off. He just keeps going. He's a special kind of guy.
There was this severe lockdown announced really, really suddenly on the Thursday, like Ross just said, and most of us would have sort of gone, "Oh, what are we going to do?" And we'd have scratched our arse for a few days and thought, "How will we do karate now?" What's going to happen? But Scott was like, "I've heard about this thing. It's called Zoom. We're starting tomorrow."
That's it. Yeah. Friday was just okay. Let's test it out. And we done that. And then we tested camera angles and can you hear this? If you go this far back, where's the best thing to show technique and stuff? And then it was like, okay, what kind of stuff can we teach? How can we teach for people who are training in their living rooms? How can we do a full class where they're not having to adjust and move furniture and stuff like that? That 1 meter squared karate that he coined it as, that Friday was us testing all that out, and then Saturday we were rolling, we were away.
Man, that's one of the things I sort of, for me, where Scott was in Japan, I was in Okinawa.
Cool.
And you guys have been to Okinawa, it's kind of a total different vibe to the mainland. And I spent some time in the mainland. But one of the things which was really encouraging, and what you guys are doing is that, like I came back, I could never imagine that people would want to train with me. I could never imagine that people that that kind of thing. Why would anyone want to train with me? And the idea of doing your own thing, creating a community of people that you want to train with and that had similar goals was so intimidating to me because of I guess a sense of low self-esteem, and there's so many people that you compare yourself to. Like I see what you guys do in a class. I'm like, man, I mean, someone commented on a Shotokan practitioner commented on around my fluidity or something, and said something, you're not very fluid, and you're not very this, and you're not very that. And I was like, well, I'm not. If you look at me from a Shotokan lens, man, I can't. When I've tried to do Shotokan kata, and I have tried, it just looks like a bowling ball trying to fit into a marble bag, man. And it's just kind of one of those weird things where I just look at it and I just go, what you guys are building and what you've been trying to build and the positivity of it is awesome. It's something that I lacked the confidence. Like I'm a year older than Scott. And people encouraged me over the years to do something like that, but I was just too frightened to do it, to be totally honest. And I lacked the confidence to do it. So it's always cool when I hear what you guys are doing, especially going off the seminars. I mean, to be straight up, boys, I'm really hoping to get you down to New Zealand. When things clear up, it'd be cool to have you in New Zealand. Come do some, come kick some stuff.
Cool, man.
Yeah, that would be cool.
You got to say, I have to say, you're talking to the two biggest Lord of the Rings geeks ever, and we always talk about going to New Zealand and seeing, the Shire and stuff like. So, yeah. Goju-ryu, why? So you were saying you had a Kyokushin influence as a young kid, a judo influence as a young kid. When did the Goju-ryu training start?
So in New Zealand, because New Zealand is such a small country, Kyokushin was really the only karate style that was here in the beginning. So I started in 1977 as a little kid, as a baby, really. And it was the only thing that was here. What happened was later on, Goju-ryu came to New Zealand, and a lot of the people who embraced Goju-ryu had been in Kyokushin class. So my first Goju-ryu teachers had all been senior Yudansha in Kyokushin. And, when you're that age, you don't know the difference. It's all wearing pajamas in the cold and kicking and punching, so you don't really know the difference. And I didn't really know what the difference in style was. And because the people, the sensei that I had, the seniors that I had, they kept a lot of those Kyokushin-esque kind of qualities. It kind of felt the same for a long time. And like a real emphasis on sparring, a real emphasis on conditioning, push-ups and kind of bunny hops around the dojo and all that sort of stuff. So
official amalgamation of the two styles.
I beg your pardon?
Was it kind of like an unofficial amalgamation of the two styles?
No, it was really, I think that, so there was a literal break. People wanted to, it was either going to go Kyokushin or Goju-ryu. So the head instructor, a gentleman called Sensei John Jarvis, who was the chief instructor for New Zealand, had gone and trained in Japan and was very good friends with Don Drager. Cool. And Don Drager introduced him to Moriu Higawana, who was an Okinawan living in Tokyo at that time. And then he just became really enamored of that style of karate and then just decided that's what he wanted to do. He came back to New Zealand, said, right, we're doing Goju-ryu now, and that's kind of how IOGKF, Okinawan Goju-ryu, in an abridged way, kind of started in New Zealand. So it wasn't a conscious choice, it was just what was around.
Nice.
Yeah. Pretty much the same story for us. Like Shotokan was what my dad did. Shotokan was probably just the local club. Yeah. Nobody.
That's what you do.
Scott Sensei says something about that, doesn't he? About how nobody
chooses.
Nobody chooses. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just what's there, what's available.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you get to a certain point though where your style, like I can't imagine doing any other style now. I mean, I do other styles I do practice other martial arts, but it's kind of like they're kind of sub-disciplines. They help me with my personal practice and my interpretation of Goju-ryu. Whereas, with you guys are so entrenched in Shotokan, but I imagine what you were doing at the beginning and like really what your dad was doing, there's probably a big, the way in which you do it, the way in which you perform it, and your mentality is quite different. I get the feeling with Scott too, he encourages a sense of ownership about what you do within the style. Would that be true?
Yeah. He always talks about owning your karate, and he doesn't describe himself as a Shotokan practitioner. He like you said on your podcast, there is no such thing as karate, karate practice, and he does sort of like try and beat that home where it's language that you use to communicate to other people, but what he's teaching is body mechanics and function and flow and all these fancy ways he puts it.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, I wanted to. So Goju-ryu means the hard, soft school, right? And from what I read, I think just on Wikipedia, a long time ago, the guy who came up with the term Goju-ryu kind of did it on the fly. Someone asked him, "What's your style?" And he was like, "It's the hard, soft style." And he just made it up.
Yeah.
His teacher had taught him some kind of mix. And so tell us, as a Goju expert, how is Goju-ryu, the hard soft style? How hard is it? How soft is it? And how are those things blended? And why is it called that?
Well, I think it's always important to be both hard and soft, Deborah. But
I know, don't I know?
no, but seriously, it's less of a bit. I mean, I would characterize it in this way. People always say hard, soft, but I would say firm and yielding.
Nice.
So as opposed to, soft. So like in terms of, one of the principles of Goju, a big principle of Goju and all karate is tai sabaki,
Yeah.
And it's really about receiving the technique. The whole idea that, uke is to, uke waza, doing Jordan uke is not to block the technique, it's to receive the technique, right? So in that, there's a sense of yielding, there's a sense of adapting to when the technique comes in. I mean, people beg us as karate practitioners and they say things like, well, karate works well against karate. But I think that the principle of what you're learning, it can be adapted to any technique. So yeah, we're learning to block a kizami ski or gyaku ski or whatever. But if you think in broader terms, you're learning the principle of receiving a technique, irrespective of where it comes from. Whether it's a hook or a haymaker or whatever it is. For me, with Goju is an interesting style because there's such an emphasis on bunkai, and for me, there are so many different. It's like when I think of Shotokan and what I know of Shotokan in the UK and its development in the UK, only from what I've read in magazines and so on and so forth, there are so many different personalities within that. There was a Noida Sensei, Kanazawa, Shirai, Asai, all these different instructors that influenced, people like Terry O'Neill. I mean, Terry O'Neill, Sensei Terry O'Neill actually trained quite a bit with Higuana Sensei and they were quite close friends. I watch his karate and I'm just going, oh my God, he's just, and also the fact that he's got a 28 pack, and just an incredible, his technique is so sharp and strong and all those sort of things. But you look at his technique in relation to someone like Frank Brennan or Sensei Sherry or all these other guys, like there are subtle differences. The way in which they interpret that and they express that can actually be quite different. And I think the same is with Goju. The focus on bunkai is really about understanding the principles of kata, not the literal translation, right? So it's like what Scott says, you're learning a set of principles and learning how to interpret them or to, it's about learning the translation for yourself. So you learn the technique, shuhari, which is a wonderful book available to all leading.
No. He's not.
Save that for his one, yeah?
He's not listening.
But the idea is that for me, when I was younger, Goju was just a name. I wanted to do spinning hook kicks. I wanted to have that beautiful, my mawashigiri. I wanted ura mawashigiri. I wanted the coolest sweep kicks, and if I could do it standing on one hand, looking cool, all the better, And the thing now with for how I interpret Goju, like I wouldn't call myself an expert on Goju. I'm an expert on the way that I like to practice Goju. So I'm an expert on my journey in that art, not an expert on the art. And for me, it's an exciting thing because it's a constant exploration and it's hard. Like I was watching you guys do yokogiri the other day. I'm going, I don't even know if when I was young and I was really super flexible, if I could have got my foot up that high. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You weren't watching me do yokogiri. You weren't watching me do yokogiri. You were. I've got a very bad yokogiri.
But I think the thing about the firm and the yielding is this: that adapting as I get older, as my body changes, the yielding aspect of it is going, well, if I'm spending 8 hours a day watching YouTube videos on other people doing karate and being out of shape, or I'm watching other practitioners practice, and instead of being inspired, I'm feeling, oh, I mean, I can't do anything. You know, I'm suffering in the comparison. Then, you know, I should really turn off YouTube and actually just go outside and start practicing and trying to find my interpretation of that. What happens sometimes in Goju, just like any other style, is that it becomes personality centric. It comes based around a particular person, as opposed to looking at that person as being a doorman or a doorwoman, opening the door and saying, hey, look, walk through and find what you want to find. It becomes focused on them. So it becomes focused on the messenger and not the message. And for me with Goju, I mean, like I said, when I was young, I wanted to do uramashigiri, but now a good kingiri to the nuts and a thumb in the eye is as good as a you know, a Toby Maigiri or something like that, you know, and it takes a lot less effort.
Yeah,
So,
it'll probably work better.
You know?
Yeah.
you know, I know that was a long way around of answering. I hope that answered, Ruth. That sounded like whole shit to me when I think.
Brilliant, man.
Brilliant. Some great stuff in there. You talked a little bit about as your body changes. Now I know you've spoken a little bit about the ailments that your body's went through, the injuries that you've gone through. What injuries do you have? What ailments do you have, and how have you found a way to get round those and continue training?
Well, it's kind of, I remember a time when I had a bad left knee and a good right knee. Now I've got a bad left knee and a worse right knee. So It's always this comparison. But no, seriously, I've actually been really lucky, and I'm going to touch wood. I've never broken a bone. I've had a few strains. I've done stupid things. I think when I was younger, I trained in quite an intensive way, and tried to keep that up. So what I've tried to do, I'm 49 at the moment, and if I train with a 25, 19-year-old, 18-year-old expectation of my body, I'm going to be disappointed every time. So in terms of understanding sort of recovery rates and all those sort of things, like I'm very much into functional training. I'm very much into like kettlebells and battle ropes and tie pulls and all those sort of things. That stuff I enjoy that stuff. I like powerlifting. I like doing Olympic lifts and things like that. Not enough, Roo. Not enough. Yeah. Hey, what are you benching? Hey, what are you I'll tell you what I'm benching. I'm benching my expectations, and they're very, very heavy.
Very nice.
But the thing is but in terms of, like, I did my shoulder. I tore my shoulder quite badly about a year ago. So, and that was through weight training wrong. Not warming up properly and things like that, and just trying to be a hero, and just doing a bad job. In terms of karate, like, I don't do air training anymore. I don't do kihon. I do kihon, but things like giriwaza, I do into something on makiwara, on a bag, on pads. I've just found, for me, just throwing things in the mid-ear, it just is not good for my hips.
Nice.
So I'm really careful about that. I mean, I'll do kihon up and down, like I'll do, you know, maigiri and, you know, step in and yakuski or whatever, but I'm not spending hours and hours just standing there kicking on the spot into space. I like to hit something just to have that feedback as well.
So you say it's safe for your joints to have a target?
I think that, for me, what I found is you see a lot of older practitioners in their 50s, 40s, 50s, and 60s, a lot of hip replacements, because I think that we were encouraged to train the only way. We made the best decisions with the knowledge that we had at the time. But continually throwing your hip out and the power that you're holding in that technique, you're throwing, you know, when you're extending the hip, you're extending your hip through. and not hitting anything, that power's got to go somewhere. And for me, it goes back into my body. It's gone back into my body, and it's not been a great thing. I've had to deal with sort of hip strains and things like that. And now that's not a general kind of thing. It's just something which has kind of happened to me. Like I'm 6'4", and what happens is that one of the things that I'm challenged with is because I feel like I'm about a foot too tall to be good at karate. You know? Yeah, I feel that.
Or any time?
I think that, to be honest, I think that being tall, being well over 6 feet, has been a hindrance in my karate for a lot of my. Because I mean, have a think about it this way. So, and all joking aside, you've talked about being one of the lightest and the smaller guys in the dojo.
Yeah, I'm tiny.
Okay,
I'm
so
5'6".
You should
I get
see
5'6".
the lift he has to reach.
But look,
Sitting on top, can you move the thing?
if you look at the guncho,
He's sitting on a ball on top of the bench.
but look at the guncho. But look at the guncho that I'm getting. Those are not those. Look at that. Look at that. Pow. But so here's something to think about. So whenever you get into a kumite or randori situation, whenever you're training with someone, because people are bigger, you have an opportunity to use a lot more percentage of your power, right? So every time you're in a situation, you're training, just by virtue of being lighter, you get to use a greater percentage of your power. When at 6'4" and 150 kilos, I have to be really measured at what I do, and in terms of, and I also have to ask myself this question: will that actually work, or am I just being able to do that because I'm bigger? Do you know what I mean? I mean, having said that, at one point I was the smallest person in our dojo, including the women. So we've got some big Polynesian people here. Yep. I've got a 14-year-old student who's 6'6", and she's on the New Zealand basketball team.
Wow. So they make them big down in New Zealand.
They make them big. Polynesians tend to be a little bit on the big side. But the point I was trying to make is that in terms of it being a negative thing, I think that if when you start getting into a space where you're relying on your size, when you're relying on your weight advantage, like I like to think of myself as a good technical karateka. I don't want to muscle things on. I want to have position and timing and good technique. I want to extend my hip. I want to be able to not just crank it on, because I don't think there's any development in that. So I have this thing in my head, this insecurity all the time that would this work? Would this work? Would this work? And what I try for is I'm looking for speed, maneuverability, and agility. And I think those things go really, really well together. And I think also having a mindset of not seeing yourself as big or small, of just being in your body, not going, right, I'm smaller, so they're bigger, but try not to look at how you train in relation to other people. Do your thing, find what works for you, continue your practice, shape how you do it, and just work at your optimum. And like I say, I see what you guys do, and I'm like, man, it's so impressive. It's so physical, and when you do the bends training and your cuts are so strong, I'm like, yeah, man, that's, as an example of something that I compare myself to, I'm going, I don't know at my prime if I could have kept up with you guys. And I mean it without any horse shit. I'm not blowing smoke, but it's just the truth.
Very, very nice of you, but
Very
I'm sure if we swapped dojos, for a couple of weeks, I'm sure we would be put on our heels a little bit in the kind of training you do. I mean, I've seen the kind of
the Hojondo video.
Yeah.
Woo!
I mean, that was. Can you rip a man's head off?
Yeah.
With your bare hands?
Say my head.
Twist it up and down.
No, well, you know what? It's funny. Can I rip a man's with Hojondo? So when I do stuff on Hojondo, for me, Hojondo is a couple of things. I think that any time that you're using something outside of yourself to improve, that's Hojondo. Hojondo is a mindset.
Will you explain Hojondo for maybe people who've never heard the term before?
Okay, so Hojondo is a traditional Okinawan practice of using various tools, traditional tools, to encourage you. Like, for instance, there's a thing called the nigiri game or game, where the jars which are filled with sand, which you hold and you just kind of grasp the lip, and it's to increase your grip strength. Makiwara, obviously everyone knows makiwara. There's the Kongo Ken, which is a big steel ring. There's chishi, which is basically a stone on the end of an axe handle. It's going to sound so weird if you've never seen any of these things. But if you think about that, Hojondo is training with equipment, and the Okinawan people who developed that at the time, they didn't have access to kettlebells or to mace training or to weight training, so they developed what they had at the time. So I think that whenever you're using any gear to improve your experience of karate, how you experience and express karate, I think it's Hojondo, and I think it's a positive thing. I think just lifting stuff, the problem with Hojondo is sometimes when people practice it, they don't know what they're doing. They're following a pattern and they go, this is what I should do. I think if you're going to do it, it's really important to understand what sits behind it, what you're trying to achieve. And there's an element of wanting to feel more traditional, which is cool, but there's also an element of understand why you're doing it, because it just loses. If you're just doing it because you've seen people doing it, it's kind of like, it's a very kind of, just a very aesthetic thing. And it doesn't have much depth unless you know what you're doing. Why do it if you don't know what you're doing?
Yeah.
So that was I hope there was Hojondo.
Sometimes we're not even playing around with tools or equipment. We're just doing Kihon and we don't know what we're doing. Why?
Not only do I not know what I'm doing, I don't know how to do it. I mean, but that's it. It does come back to Kihon. Now for me, when I get into my dojo and practice in the mornings, and I have the HCK Hombu Dojo podcast in my ear, I thought at this age, I remember thinking that when I got my shodan, I would have magical powers. Finally I'd be the Jedi that I'd always hoped I'd be. But what I found, I thought that when I was older, I'd be practicing ninja techniques, bouncing off the walls and, killing people with my pinky and all that sort of stuff. But what I'm practicing is dropping into a good sense of kutsurachi, moving in a centered way up and down, doing kizami, oisuki, gakusuki, maigiri, kansetsu-giri, and then trying to make sure that my balance is good. I'm not practicing, and then I'm coming backwards, practicing jodan aiguke, chudan sotuke, gerambarai. So I'm not practicing super complex things because the power of Kihon is they're always teaching us, the way in which we look at them are, changes. The way in which you approach Kihon and practice it, and the intensity is different, but that's where a lot of my growth is. It's a lot of, as you get older, it's important to practice things because those are the things which you base everything on. If you we get too fancy. Like I remember getting into, I saw your interview, Roo, with that gentleman from America.
Sensei Seth.
One who's the fancy kicker, Sensei Seth.
Oh,
no, who's
kicks now.
He's got some fancy kicks.
Yeah.
What I'm trying to do, like for a long time, I was into sort of doing fancy kicks. But now my idea of a fancy kick is one that would work. So, and I'm not saying that his kick's going to work. It's not a comment on his kick. I can't kick like that. So,
I think he'd agree.
But for me,
like that's his bread and butter. He's got his head screwed on. I think a knee to the balls is ultimately very effective.
So it's like, I'll give an example. My idea of, so for me with Goju-Ryu, it's a very close fighting style. We're always trying to close the gap and grabbing, grasping, seizing, sweeping, throwing, grappling are all part of it, right? But I'm not going to grapple I've got a judo and jiu-jitsu background, but I'm not going to try and grab someone, throw them on the ground and look for a submission for half an hour. The idea of getting them on the ground is so I can finish the engagement quickly. When I come in, I'm not looking to do, I'm not going, right, how do I cleanly step in with a kizami and then come with a gyaku? Will probably lead with my forehead and get as close to the person I can, fish hook them, hit them again with my head, try and open the palm of my hand in their throat, grab their throat, sweep their legs, and then try and hit them as many times as I can on the way down. You know, I mean, so
that's
for me,
you've just described the first kata of a Glasgow martial art. That's the first kata. That's the first kata.
That could be the Scottish. Yes, that could be my Scottish ancestry coming through. But I mean, no, the thing is that for me also too, because I grew up we grew up as part of our dojo, we all did door work on some pretty rough pubs and clubs and things like that. You know, I started doing door work when I was 15. Yeah, everyone did door work. All the guys that I was on the door with were all Shodan Nidan and Goju, judo, boxers, all of the rest of that. So the thing about doing door work, and it wasn't that the most important thing I learned from door work was not how to fight, it was how to de-escalate situations, how to use your brain, how to think tactically. And then I went on to work in other areas professionally for many years as a contractor in different places around the world.
Why are you being so vague, Tuari? Why are you being so vague? What were you doing?
I'm very vague. Just doing things where
doing special jobs.
A tactical mindset was a good thing to have. But the point being that I don't think you have to go out and be a door person. If you grow up and your focus is like, Ross, how old were you when you won the World Championships?
13.
13. So a 13-year-old world champion. Do you know what I mean? The way in which you practice karate. I mean, and how long did it take you to feel like that you're a world champion?
Nothing for me. Nothing changed. It's funny. Like it never. It never really seemed like a great. It seemed like another competition to me. You know, like I knew it was a big deal and there was a big party, and I was very happy to win it. But then I was in the dojo 2 days later, still in the line, still training with everyone, still doing the usual routine. Nothing changed. I wasn't treated any different. I didn't walk any different, act any different. I didn't tell anyone at school or anything like that. Like it was just another medal for the cabinet, you know.
Yeah. We'll see it. So, and Rue, with your what's been the highlight of your of competition for you?
I have no competition background at all.
Right. Okay. Well, let me put it a different way. What's the highlight of your the competition that you're in with yourself in terms of benchmarks?
Oh, stop! I'll start crying if we get into that.
All right. Straight up.
I don't know, man. That's a huge question. Passing my Nidan was a huge day for me. We'll go with that.
So we have all these things which happen externally in our karate, right? So for me, I stopped focusing on combat, on the benchmark being whether or not I could take care of myself. I stopped looking at how do I destroy a person in front of me? Not that I ever could, but the point is that I stopped focusing on the combat aspect, and I started focusing on what is this bringing into my life, right? What am I learning which I take outside the dojo? What am I learning that is really important to me? The benchmarks that I have in martial arts are nothing to do with fighting or winning trophies. And I don't mean, and Ross, you've talked about quite a few things on the podcast. And some of the stuff that some of the experiences that you've had. I mean, you never saw yourself as a world champion, but you were a world champion at 13. But when the way in which you guys talked about, when you go on these karate adventures, the people that you meet and the people that you influence. So when you meet people, you influence how they feel about themselves.
Mm.
So if you think about it this way, you know, Rue, you as a musician, as an accomplished musician, you know all about scales and composition, all of these sort of things. Try and think about it this way. Your students come to you as clay, right? The people who come to you wanting to learn more about karate. They think it's about karate and being good at this and that, but what actually happens is you're handing them the tools to understand themselves better. You know, you think about that kid in class who can't stand still for more than 10 minutes. They turn up at class and they're the kids who will run around the back, sucking their thumbs, banging their head against the wall, yelling and screaming. And then you come back a month later and they're able to stand in the same position for an entire hour, you know?
Yeah.
So we're so privileged that we get an opportunity to be a part of people's development. That's, for me, the important part of karate. Not like we're sort of gods or anything like that, but you know that for me, karate is really about, like, I guess what Scott's talking about. It's a means to understanding ourselves better. It's a vehicle. And you guys have chosen to serve people, you know, by going, there's aspect of professionalism and all the rest of that. I get that. But also you guys have chosen, because of your experiences, to dedicate yourself to something, to a higher goal, to helping people, to assisting, and to furthering a vision of what karate can be. You guys came from different organizations and different training experiences, competition experiences, personal experiences, and every time you get out on the floor, you're making a statement, you know? And for a lot of kids, and you know, like, I've never been to the UK. I've been through the UK, but I've never stopped. I've always passed through Heathrow on the way to somewhere, and I've never been to Ireland or Scotland. But there's a lot of people who believe in those sort of places, probably, I know for me in my community, who believe that people like us don't do things like that. That's the mantra that goes on in their head. People from this place who look like us, or who live where we live, or don't have this, or don't have that, don't do those things. So every time you get out on the floor, when kids turn up, they're seeing two men who are capable of complete destruction, but have humor about themselves, have humility, train hard, can talk to children, can have a laugh, but at the same time do all these things which set the bar a lot higher for them as kids. You would have influenced kids and other people when you've done these karate adventures in ways that you guys don't even realize. Like, one of my favorite podcasts is the one where you talked about, I think you went to Spain, and there was that particular sensei who showed Ross fell in love with all his swords.
Yeah, in Italy. In Trieste, Paolo Palafio Sensei.
You know, but you know, you guys went in and you went, look, this is not what we do, but I'm keen to experience it. You know, so it's like, so what that says is, I don't always have to know what's going on. Sometimes I just have to be open to the experience. You know, you think about that. You think about 10, 15, 20, 30 years ago, that would never have happened. You know, they're not our style, they're not our affiliation, so we don't train with them.
Within my time, even within Shotokan, he's not part of our organization, therefore we don't go and train with him, you know? Never mind styles or anything like that. It's and it still happens. It still happens. Yeah.
Tuari, that was one of the best speeches we've ever had on the podcast.
That was amazing.
By the way, that was great.
That was great.
That bit about
you've set the bar very low. There fits it.
Children along the path, and not because we're we're monks or guides or anything, just because it's a good system.
Yeah.
And because we've chosen to take the path, and we can bring these children along with us. That was fucking brilliant.
That was great.
Fair play.
Well, yeah, but it's also the culture that you guys create and what you do, you know?
Well, we've been facilitated to get this far by
But you know what, Rue,
our instructors.
but Rue, you can take a compliment, man.
Ah,
so, Rue, you know, look, with working with kids and doing all the work that you do with kids, I mean, I've talked a little bit about those kids that can kind of seem a bit problematic at the beginning. Have you had students that are like that?
I have this perfect example. Right, now this story is going to make me seem like I'm the shit altogether, but I'm going to tell it anyway. So I started teaching at this youth club, like an after-school youth club, and they wanted a karate teacher to come in, so they contacted the dojo, and I got sent along to do it. And I went there, and all the other childminders were there, like the after-school club women. They were all women, and they said, we've just had a look at your list, and you've got little, I'm going to make up a name. Little Johnny. You've got little Johnny in your class. Ooh, you're going to struggle with little Johnny. He's, you better watch out. So I was like, well, nothing I can't handle. And then I did the class, and yeah, little Johnny was a bit of a troublemaker. He liked to be the center of attention. He liked to disrupt things. But whatever, he got a couple of warnings. He took a time out. He was a bit pissed off at the end of class. Whatever. Next week, kind of a similar situation, a little bit better. But time goes on, and I always make sure after I give out to a child, give them a warning or tell them to stop messing, I make sure within 2 minutes I compliment them, even if they're still rubbish and not trying. I'll be like, oh, so I make sure they get a compliment, and then before long, little Timmy, little Johnny, little Nathaniel was the most enthusiastic of the whole group. Whenever he was team captain, he was keeping all his team members in line, making sure they weren't messing, making sure everybody was winning points. And I was getting the kids hyped up for a grading. And I was like, some of you are going to go for stripes. And a couple of you, if you keep training really hard, might just go for orange belt. And a couple of them did. But little Johnny wasn't quite ready. He didn't know he had Shodan. And I didn't want to send him for orange belt and him to, get half orange or whatever. So I said, not this time. We're going to send you for 3 black stripes on your white belt instead. And the tears started pouring. And I thought, this guy didn't give a fuck about karate the first couple of days. And they all warned me he wouldn't cooperate. They all warned me he was going to be a problem. And now look at him. He loves karate so much. Not because I'm great or anything, just because this is what he needed. And he was in bits. He got his orange belt eventually.
I mean,
well, see, and that perfectly articulates why, within Māori culture, there's a thing called tohe, and tohe is a kind of your rites of passage as men and women. And what happens is you created a rite of passage for that young fella. You created an opportunity for him to feel like he was part of something really special. And that created in him a feeling that he was really special, and that this guy who's the big black belt at the front of the class actually says, hey, you're actually really good at something. You can recognize that. I mean, that's the power. That's the power of what you do and the way in which you put that sort of stuff across. And you don't realize it. It's those small kindnesses. It's the million small things that will make such a difference. That makes such a difference in people's lives, especially kids, especially young men. So by you doing that, it role models something as a man. It role models something as that men can be caring and vulnerable and all those sort of things, but that to strive for something, the value of working for it, and the value of that you are part of something, and that it's okay to, this time you're not grading, and that's okay. And that's okay. You're going to grade next time. So you give them something to focus on the future, and something to work hard, and knows that you've got his back. I mean, and when he got his orange belt, he would have been the happiest kid in the world, And what he learned, whether or not he stayed in the dojo is not the point. It's maybe he took that on to in his brain when he went to school and he had a math problem or something that he couldn't solve. Maybe he goes, oh, Sensei said, if I just work hard at it, and if I just keep trying, I might get the answer. So that you don't know what effects that has, So that's awesome, bro. Cool. Awesome. Cheers to you, man.
Cheers to you, man.
All Invisible Sensei products available online, yeah?
Hey, hold on a sec. Guys. But I'm just reading.
I'm going to blur this out.
We plug him enough.
So can I ask you guys a question?
Please do. So outside of karate, who's been some influences on you guys? Maybe not even karate practitioners. Maybe it's a physical thing. Maybe there's people that you can kind of try and emulate. Outside of karate, who's people that have kind of been a huge support or influence on what you do in karate?
That is a fantastic question.
I've trained in a few different martial arts, and there's two martial artists that I've trained with that influenced me. One is Andy, my former MMA coach, stellar guy. Another one is one of my mates, Craig, who was a fitness bodybuilder type guy, who was very good. But I want to stay away from the kind of physical training thing. So if you've got someone, musician or something, go ahead. I'm going to think.
Well, I'll give you an example while you guys are thinking. Just give you a second. A huge influence on my martial arts journey was my grandmother.
Yeah.
My parents and New Zealand is we're a rugby nation, especially if you're Polynesian. Everyone plays rugby. Everyone, you guys being from a rugby nation yourself, we're the rough and tough, the big and bash rugby stuff. Yeah. So I never wanted to play rugby. I always liked drawing, and I liked the arts, and I liked to be creative and things like that. And apparently my father said, I was not a bad wee rugby player as a little kid. That's the only time I really played it. And when I started really getting into martial arts, it was kind of, my father would say, well, only cowards kick, all that sort of stuff. So I had no time for it. It was, it's a lot of rubbish. But my grandmother, she would never make fun of me. She always said, I will go and live with her, and I'd put a little makiwara up on the tree. And she was the one person who, when I said that I wanted to do this thing, actually put her hand up and supported me in it, I didn't get support from the family. They kind of thought I was a bit weird. But she was the one person in my life who at that time said, do what you want to do. Just do what you want to do. Don't worry about what everyone else says. Just keep doing it. And every time I put on my gi, I think of my nan. Every time I go and practice, I think of my grandmother. And she's been gone. She passed away in 2002. But I'm so thankful that I had that one person. In terms of everything that I've done on the martial arts, I really owe it all to her support. So, I'm really, really lucky for that.
That's great, man.
Can I give you guys a challenge?
All right.
Rui, what's your favorite kata? What's a kata you like doing?
Goju Shiho Sho.
Goju Shiho Sho. And what about for you, Ross?
So Chin's the bread and butter one for me. That's the
Chin, yeah.
That's the safety net kata for me. So it is.
Nice. I like my kata as short as possible, with as little movement as possible. But here's I want to give you a challenge if I can.
One.
So for me, when I do Suprempe, the song that I hear in my head, the song that I train, is "Wish You Were Here," Pink Floyd's "Wish You Were Here." Right. Yeah. When I do Shisoshin kata, it's "Nothing Else Matters."
Cool.
When I do Geksai Daich and Geksai Daini, it's Rage Against the Machine.
Cool.
So
great music taste, by the way.
Yeah.
Really good music taste.
So for your kata, I'd like to know if you could characterize the kata that you've talked about, Goju Shiho Sho or Soshin. What song, if it had a theme song for you, what theme song would it be?
It's got to be Bruce Springsteen.
Well,
I'll find a Bruce Springsteen song that fits.
Sochin would be more like something like immigrant song.
Ooh,
that's my
words in your mouth.
That's my alarm every day. Yeah. I wake up to immigrant song.
Great song to wake up to.
That for Goju Shiho Sho as well, but I think maybe something. Let me see. Hang on a second. I need to fucking.
These big questions are very big, man.
I need to do a bit. Go to Shiho Sho. What comes after that? Oh yeah.
MP.
Oh yeah. So don't think in terms of. So I'm interested because I'm interested in not what goes with the kata, but with the feeling that you evoke in yourself when you do the kata.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go with The Ocean by Led Zeppelin.
Okay. Nice. Why?
Man, I tell you what, there is a song that I equate to not just like, because kata is interesting, but I equate Linkin Park to all of my karate.
Oh, yeah.
That is my Linkin Park Hybrid Theory album is my warm up music. It's my cool down music. It is the thing that as soon as I hear any song, slow, fi, whatever, as soon as I hear a song from that, boom, I'm in the zone. Like I am in like that. That was the music I was listening to warming up for every final of a competition. Like that is it. So I think in the end.
Yes!
Yeah. You know?
Yes, man. Cool.
So here's maybe something to think about with your students is in the build up to their grading, ask them, say to them, what I want you to do is I want you to video yourself doing the kata that I need you to do, and I want you to find a song that makes sense to you when you do the kata as a little bit of homework for them.
But young people don't know what good music is.
I guess, hey, it's like, oops, I did it again. But the thing is that I think that there's a connection between our creative selves and our karate. Like for me, I think that music is very similar. Like for me, as a muso, Ryu as a muso, Ross is someone who appreciates me and loves music. Like Linkin Park, for me, my kumite is anything Rage Against the Machine.
Yeah. Rage Against the Machine is always my bagwork music.
Audio Slave is my weightlifting music.
Cool.
Especially the song Cochise. And anything for repetition, anything thumping bass, anything kind of Public Enemy, NWA, so the sort of classic bit of Tupac in there as well.
I find really for cool. Sparring, for general sparring training, because I want to be light and I want to be gentle and playful, it's always like some funk, like James Brown or something like that, and get up with that
when
thing.
you and Tiger doing
like
something really cool,
yeah. I like that kind of like that chilled sort of vibe,
Yeah, man. But you've got to be careful when you put some stuff on. Like some mornings, I get up there and I get up there and I get in the dojo and I put my thing up on the wall and I go, right, this morning on the train, I'm going to want to have a mellow session, and I push something and it bores the shit. I'm like, I'm getting in there. I'm going, I am so bored with this. It's just. And I'm getting all gentle and zen. I'm going, I don't want gentle and zen. I need a bit of lead guitar in my life, Hey, I tell you, Gary Moore, still got the blues. Still got the blues as my sanction kata. Yeah, used to be so easy.
Yeah,
my heart away.
Nice one.
So, so music is really important to me in my training, and it's underrated, man. But it can do so much. But anyway, sorry, man, we got off track. So, Ru, you were going to come back with your response,
right? So, a teacher who has influenced my karate, who was not a karate teacher. That's basically the question. Right. I studied music when I was in university. And I went to Maynooth, which is a university which also has a seminary where they train the wee priesthood, the wee Catholic priests, and they had a master of sacred music in the seminary. And he wasn't a priest; he was an academic, but he was a music PhD, and he also taught in the music department of the university. So he worked for the seminary and the university. And he became my singing master, like my singing sensei. I auditioned for a special group of non seminary students, so lay people, who could go in and learn plain chant. Have you ever heard about plain chant?
No, I haven't.
Plain chant is a special kind of sacred music. It's the oldest kind of music that was ever written down, that was ever notated. So it comes from about 500 AD, and it has a completely different kind of notation. Anyway, won't go too much into it, but it's very melismatic and it's free. There's no tempo or beat, but there's ways to interpret it rhythmically. But it was you had these sacred scrolls, basically, sacred scrolls of ancient music, and there was one correct way to do it that you had to get, and you had to learn it, and you had to be able to do it, and it was a very strict discipline. And then once you had it, then you could learn. Then you could internalize it. You see where I'm going?
Mm-hmm.
And then once you internalized it, then you could make it your own. All right. Sounds like a title of a book we all know and love, Tuari. Okay, so it was the very same thing.
Tuari, did you say? Tuari.
Yeah. Right, so, but this guy was that's the system that we were learning, and we auditioned and we got into this group. There were only 8 people in it, and we didn't sing together. We took turns singing for John, and then he coached us. And when I say, I didn't even know a music teacher could be so hands-on, because I always talk about on the podcast, I always say, oh, Richard Amos is so hands-on, he's a coach. You know, he'll grab you and he'll fix you and he'll join in and he'll try and punch you and he'll help you along. A singing teacher can be a coach as well. He used to stand in front, he used to say, so this wasn't me, this was one of the girls in the class. She was stalling. It wasn't running out of breath, it was running out of confidence, running out of commitment to the note. Mm. So he'd say, when you hit that note, you have to be a car at the bottom of a hill. And if you lose momentum going up the hill, you're done for. Not only do you have to keep your momentum, but you have to increase the drive, right, to maintain speed. So he was like, you have to push the accelerator, you have to go down. And these were ideas that he gave us about how to sing. And another time there was another one of the girls, coincidentally, I can't remember anything he taught me. Her phrases were very loose. They were disjointed. And he said, you're like a remote control car on Christmas morning. You're hitting the skirting boards and you're going zzz, poof, and then you're zzz, poof, and the child doesn't know how to work the thing at all. So you need direction. You need to turn these curves. You need to make these corners. You need to know where you're going. You can't be blindly bumping into these phrases. And I was like, this is such a way to teach somebody how to sing. This is like, it was amazing. And
yet you're teaching. That's exactly what you're doing when you're with that young boy that we were talking about, the young fellow that you helped too, in his life.
Yeah.
The way his attention span and his belief that he couldn't do those things, and the belief that other people had about him, that he would just be like that thing that was banging into to skirting boards.
Yeah.
You gave him a degree of control over that because you didn't bring the art to life. You brought what you've learned in life into your art and how you teach the art. It's amazing.
Yeah, exactly. That little boy had direction in the end. Even if he didn't get to go for his orange belt that time, he wanted it so much.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I mean, like you were talking about, committing to the note, you're also talking about committing to how, he's sitting with his emotions. You know what it's like when you get, your brain is like elastic. 1 minute you're 12, and next minute you're 8, and then it's kind of, especially as teenage boys with all these wonderful fluids flowing through. So, you literally are sitting there with this remote control you can't work out, and that's amazing, man. That's amazing. Respect again. Come play.
That's my answer.
That's nice, man. I mean,
that's awesome.
Awesome. I'm struggling because I have been around martial arts for so long, and everyone who has a influence on my martial arts tends to be martial artists. But if I was looking for inspiration, like you say, family would be the next best thing, and I think my dad, me and my dad get on really really well now. But there was a period of time where it was a rocky road with us. Just because I was at that age where just breathing pissed him off, it was just those things like,
or you do something and you get up and you open the door and you're gonna do it like that, are you?
Exactly. Just my being, my aura fucking set him off. But one thing, from the age of 7 and even till now, he has always sacrificed his own time, his own money, everything to facilitate me and my sister's dreams. My sister is a top level sled dog trainer. She flies over to Canada and Wyoming and stuff to train with the best team in the world. So she only is able to do that because of the sacrifices my mum and dad made for us. So when people ask mum and dad, well, what are the kids doing? It's like, oh, well, Molly's away racing sled dogs and training sled dog teams in Canada, and Ross is teaching karate in Dublin and around the world. And they go, what the fuck? You know? And I have to say, the sacrifices mum and dad made for me and my sister is man, if I that it's that kind of way. If I can, talking about facilitating opportunities for people and stuff, if you can pass that kind of sacrifice and put that kind of effort and help people fulfill their potential, if you can do that in the dojo,
well, I mean, you guys are doing it. I mean, you know, like I get so inspired. Like I started a seminar series here in New Zealand, and that people want to come to from other places. And I'm looking at starting my own seminar series because you guys when you talk about your karate adventures, I'm like, yeah, man, that's something worthwhile. That's something cool. I mean, and talking about your parents, you know, and I don't mean this to get kind of maudlin, but you know, I never knew how proud my old man was of me until after he died, and they had the wake at the pub, and all his mates come up to me and said, oh, you know, your father used to talk about you. He was very proud of you. Never said it to me because, you know, we don't, you know, emotions. I'm having an emotion. Take it outside. Take it outside. No emotions, no emotions. You know, so, and when, you know, and Rue, you've talked about, you know, how your mum used to drive you a long distance to come and train and those sort of things. Those podcasts. Those people, those small, it's the million small things that matter. It's those small kindnesses, you know, and now you're literally paying it forward by doing the same thing. I mean, on the podcast, by getting out and doing it, trying to imagine these kids training with 2 international level instructors that go all around the world teaching and training. But what you're saying to them by doing that is you're going, you can do it too. One of my teachers of our Māori traditional martial arts here, he said to me that if you do this, he says, if you commit to this, you'll go around the world doing it. It will take you around the world. And it has. And that's what's really inspiring about what you're doing. It's what's inspiring about the podcast, is because you get to share and encourage other people on their karate adventures, you know. When you listen to your podcast, it feels like you're sitting with 2 really cool men and instructors, but also you feel like you're sitting in the Hombu with yous, and it's awesome. And
in this sweaty box of an office right now.
No, you know, but the thing is, you know, but the thing is, you know, but the thing is that it's really about creating a community of people, and also about what we're leaving behind. You know, what we're showing other people. I mean, you think about. I know for me as a kid, I didn't have anyone around me who sort of said, you know, you're capable of anything, you can do this and do that and travel and all those sorts of things. I remember the 2 or 3 people that did. And for those kids that you're training, and for those people that you're helping towards a goal, in terms of karate, that's what you're being, you know. And like Scott said to me, what did he say? He said, compliments are like, he said something, in essence, what he says, compliments are good, but only in small doses. But you know what? We can pat ourselves on the back. I can be proud of what I do. You guys should be proud of what you do. It's cool, you know. And it's inspiring, man. I'm inspired by you guys, and I'm looking forward to seeing where you guys go. And hopefully, you get down to the Pacific, and I can get you some tattoos.
Oh no!
Yes, man. Yes, I'm down, man.
You're on, bro. You're on.
I have one tattoo. I have one tattoo.
Come on.
Oh, that's so cool, man. Oh.
So here's the sun, and here's the moon, and here's the balance between the 2.
Oh.
But man,
so come on down.
Would that not be a cultural?
Is that not fucking like really bad?
No, but because hey, look. You're the Gaelic people, the people of Scotland and Ireland. We've got a common enemy. We've got a common ancestry. You know, we're indigenous people. We're indigenous people of the land. All right. So maybe my people are a little more melanin enhanced, you know, but we're all indigenous people. So we stand together. We can share. don't think of water as separating us. Think of the water as joining us. We're all island people. Your island's a lot bigger than
That's
that.
fair enough. My
lovely.
mother's maiden name was Connolly, which is an ancient Celtic name, Connelach. So yeah, I'm with you.
Connelach.
I'm Maori too.
you got. Well, this is all that sort of stuff, man. We're all what is the connection that Māori people in New Zealand have to Scottish and Islands and to Gaelic people is very, very strong, and that we recognise the fact that we're all Indigenous people, and that we have a kinship. You guys come over here and married into us like you wouldn't believe. So I think if you looked if you come down here, you'd find relatives. I guarantee it 100%.
Man, you go and check that out.
Yeah.
That's it.
Maybe I will get a tattoo.
We're buying the tickets. We're coming over.
I'll just get one on me bum though. Now I know it's all pretty similar, but is that Samoan or Maori or both?
So these are Samoan.
Uh-huh.
And the ones on my body are Māori. My full body one is a Māori one. But what we do is we do this. So you have the people who put our tattoos on are called tofunga, right? So a while back, I was kind of in this really bad place in terms of just work and life, and I was going through some shit, and I was just going, man, I need something. I kind of felt powerless in a situation, powerless. I was speaking truth to power. Let's put it that way, and it was not appreciated by people. So I went to the tofunga and I said, "Hey, I need to remember who I am. I need to remember that I'm always protected." So he gave me claws.
Nice one.
Those are coral claws. Now you can see here. I'll see if I can get this one. This one might be a bit better. So I don't know if you can see there. You can see this one?
Yeah.
So that's a centipede.
Uh-huh.
All right. Okay.
So many feet move in the same direction. So it's about the power to create community. Yeah, and that's what we're doing by podcasting, by reaching out to each other, by doing karate together. We're creating a community, man. So roll on down. Stop horse shitting around, you two. Get on down to New Zealand.
Absolutely, man. Fucking.
Hey, Ross, I'm going to hook that sleeve up for you, brother. I'm going to hook your sleeve up.
Nice.
Yeah.
Scott will freak.
And also, Rube, we'll get something tasteful, but something that incorporates your Gaelic, your Gaelic indigeneity, maybe the eternal knot, whatever works for you, and we'll give it a little bit of our flavor as well.
Cool,
that
man.
Sounds
all
cool,
right.
man.
All
That
right.
cool.
I'm in.
That sounds cool.
Yes.
Holy shit. That sounds awesome.
Mm.
Oh, man.
It's been so good.
It's been good,
Tuari.
man. Right. So, obviously, Tuari, you listen to the podcast. You've listened. Yeah. Oh, are you prepared with a
of the week?
Yes, he did it. Come on.
Yes.
Good man.
Yeah, man.
You've got one?
Yeah, I have.
You go first.
Yes.
Okay. So my usual morning routine is I get up. I'm a 5 o'clock riser. I'm always like to get up early. So I've got a gym set up here, and then I've got a dojo further up on the property. So I go on and do my little routine, my interval training, resistance training, all the rest of that. So I go, right, I want to do a really good session. I want to have a really robust weight session before I get out and do some karate. And so I set my music up, went out, set the bench press up and the squat rack and all the rest of that, put my kettlebells out, and went out in the morning and had my HTK Hombu Dojo podcast blasting in my ears to provide
Nice.
the right motivation. And I got down on the rack, did a little bit, some skipping and that just to get warm. It was like, right, I'm in the zone. I got on the rack and went and pulled back on the rack to do the bench press and pushed up. So remember, I've had the shoulder injury.
Yeah.
So I've been building back to lifting weight. So I thought I'm going to up it. I put a lot of plates on, As we got to the top, my right hand started to go a little bit higher than my left hand. And I'd forgotten to put the collars on.
Oh.
So, boom, 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 boom. So the weights fell off both sides. And I felt like a complete dick. Then I got up and tried to kind of recover myself. And as I got up, I asked up on my towel and ended up doing a break fall in the gym. So what I did was I got up, I went inside, made a coffee, and then went back to bed. So it was my fail.
It was like
And sometimes you've just got to go, yeah, I'm not winning this one. I'm not winning this one. Do over.
Oh man, that's a good feel. That was a good.
That was
clever
class.
feel.
That was very good, man. I felt like I was there with you, the way you told us.
Hey, if I'd been there with me, I would go, look at this dickhead.
But in the it was safer not to have the clips on, right? In that situation.
Well,
no?
yeah, but Rue, I was going for the whole sort of Scott Adkins, Boyka training montage thing in my head. It was more like a Benny that last shot in Benny Hill.
Very good.
I've got one.
Yeah, go.
Okay.
Yeah, go.
So, I've just been on holidays.
No way.
I was, yeah.
You've been on holidays.
He's saying that now because I haven't shut the fuck up about my holidays.
Every goddamn day.
I wasn't back half a day before they were sick of hearing about my holidays. So I was surfing, and
you look pretty tan, man. You look like you've been getting it. You've got the beach boy.
Man. Everyone looks tan next to me.
You've got the beach boy. You got the beach boy glow on.
my hands were more tanned than my arms because of the wetsuit. It was a full.
Right.
Anyway, so I was surfing 5 days straight, and on my last day, I was a beginner, complete beginner. But on my last day, I was fucking doing okay. I was catching a couple of green waves, and one of the surf guides gave me a tip, and it was about keeping your center of gravity low. Should have been obvious, right? But I was a complete noob, so he was like, "You're standing very stiff-legged up there, so bring your legs in a little closer and drop your hips, and you'll find you'll have that little bit of maneuverability, and you can kind of go along the wave instead of following the straight towards the shore." And I was like, "Cool." So I gave it a go, and I got it straight away, and I was like, I am a surf god! So I got super excited. And I was like, because as soon as you get that hip drop thing, you feel like you're in a surf movie. Or you feel like you're in a music video for, I don't know, like, as soon as you're like, oh yeah!
Point Break.
Point Break, exactly. Point Break.
I was fucking, what's his name?
Patrick Swayze.
Yeah,
I was Patrick Swayze up there! Anyway, so I got super excited. And I wanted to do it again and again and again. So I was battling against the break to get out there, catch another wave. Whoo, did it again. Boom. Battling against the break, get out there, caught another wave. Boom. And next thing, my arms were fucked. And I couldn't. I'd lost all my energy, but I was still battling to get out there. I want to do it again. I feel so cool. I have to do it again. Third or fourth time I went out there, I'd lost all the power in my arms. I couldn't pop up properly, and I was nosediving. I was getting wiped out again and again and again until I lost motivation and I had to go and sit on the beach.
Too much a good thing, man. That's
eager.
Hey, bro. I've got one. I can one up you on that one.
Go on.
So, I'm not a surfer, but Polynesian people are big on surfing, bro. Malibu, Malibu surfboard, right? Those big longboards.
Yeah.
You haven't had this experience, I guarantee. I sink. I had a go at surfboards, and just by sitting in it, I sink it.
Oh my
I
God.
sink it. Like everyone else is trying to. I'm being literal. Like I had to go and sit on the beach and whatever, because every time I stood up, I would sink the board to the sand. Loser. So
just
no.
slowly, like
Respect, brother.
Titanic music
Respect.
comes on.
Yeah, it was like I was like, wah, 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 wah.
Like the end of the Terminator, man. Yeah.
That's it, man.
I'm all like,
Oh,
Too many visual jokes for the audio listeners there.
Yes,
But welcome.
yes. Oh, they were gold. We're giving you comedy gold here, guys.
Go on then, Ross's turn.
Oh, so I was teaching the one outdoor class I still have just now. One place that hasn't opened back up is in Irish Town. I hate teaching out in Irish Town because it's a rough area. The kids always get harassed by pit bulls and all these fucking monsters, and the people as well and stuff.
Shout out to all our Irish Town listeners.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, so it's a place called Irish Town.
Yeah.
I was talking. I thought you were talking. I was going. Oh, aren't you in Ireland? I was going. Yeah. Sorry. Pardon me. Sorry, Ross.
And it was like 23 degrees or something, and the kids couldn't take it. We trained for about half an hour, and they were like, "It's too warm. We need to go in the shade." So I was like, "Okay, there's trees over there. Let's go to the shade." And as soon as we got to the shade and we started doing Kyo, I was like, one of the kids was about to step forward. I was like, "Don't move!" Bang! Right into a big piece of dog shit.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, "Oh no, guys! Everyone watch the dog shit!" And one of the kids ran across like, "Where's dog shit?" And I like ran straight into it. And I was like, oh. So the two kids with dog shit in their shoes, and one of them I was like, shit in your shoes, and one of them does the normal thing. Try and do this without picks up their foot like this, and does it but the other and like to look at it and then wipe it off. One of the other kids fucking picks up their foot like this and is now covered in dog shit. Like, I don't have fucking wipes. This kid's got shit there like, and I'm like, and the smell, like it doesn't smell bad until you break it up, and then it's like the smell comes out. So they're running over towards me, like, and I'm like, running away from him, like, stay the fuck. Kicking them away, like fucking. I was like, "Don't move, stay down." They're like, "Look at my."
There's peanuts. There's peanuts in it. There's peanuts in it.
I had to run around to every because it's a massive park, and there's like parents and stuff scattered about. So I'm like sprinting the length of a rugby pitch to each parent. Like, do you have tissues or baby wipes? No. Run. Do you have tissues or baby wipes? No. Man, it's my fault for not checking before we started. No, because before we start class, I always check like, is there dog shit anywhere? No, it's fine. Because we were moaning, I was like, right, under the shade and let's keep going, and I didn't check. Yeah, man, it was a bit of a dog shit. Bit of a shitty situation, you might say. So yeah.
Oh man.
That's it.
Bro, of all the things that can happen in a karate class, we underestimate the power of a piece of dog shit. How it can just, it's awesome. Respect, man. Respect. My weight's falling on the ground. Pale in comparison. Even, and as this real, I gotta say, man, you have to have won that competition. You have to have won the
dog shit story
of the week. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah, dog shit.
I'm not angry. I'm just impressed.
Bit of a fail. Bit of a tough goal. So class was over after that. That was it. I couldn't get them back. That was it. I was just like,
there's no way you can go from there.
No.
Oh man. I tell you what. Hey, thank you for having me on the podcast, guys. For some reason, I need to go and listen to some Led Zeppelin right now, and a little bit of Gary Moore this morning.
That's it, man. Tuari, you're one of the funniest people we've had on here. We're definitely going to do it again, man. Yeah, for sure.
Oh, hey, look, I'm going to get you guys on, and we'd love to have you down in New Zealand. You guys are always welcome. You got a place to stay, a place to train, and someone to carry your bags. And go. I know these guys. I know them. We hang. Hey, but no, seriously, guys, keep up.
Please
keep up the great work with the podcast and your training, because it's really inspirational. I find it really inspirational. A lot of people do. You guys have got a great voice. You're putting great stuff out there, and it's getting my ass up in the morning out there and training. And thanks so much. And looking forward to you guys coming down and I can drive you. I can be the sober driver.
That's it. Yeah, that's the key thing. Got a way home. Fantastic.
No worries. Thanks so much, guys.
It's been a
Thank you
pleasure,
so
man.
much.
Thank you so much, bro.
Thank you, brothers. See you soon. Shaka, brah. Shaka.
You can also do this.
Man,
Yeah.
thank you very much, and we'll talk to you
See
soon.
you guys. Bye, brother.
Peace,
Oos.
peace, peace, peace.
Oos.
Okay, it's D, Dun, G,